A very good morning and welcome into Morning Drive on a Tuesday. Anna Whiteley alongside Damon Hack, Paige McKenzie and Robert Dameron getting you up to date with all the latest news. So just yesterday, following the postponement of the Masters in April, Augusta National Golf Club is donating $2 million in response to the COVID-19 pandemic to assist the Augusta area in the fight against the coronavirus. And in college news, following a vote just yesterday, the NCAA has approved an extra year of eligibility for all spring sport athletes, meaning some senior college golfers will get another chance to compete for a national championship. This news comes after the NCAA had made the decision earlier this month to cancel the remainder of its competitive spring calendar due to the COVID-19 concerns. The cost of the season will fall upon each of the individual schools, but the NCAA will adjust financial aid rules to allow teams to carry more members on scholarship next spring. Now, Paige, you've covered the NCAAs for a long time now with Golf Channel. It doesn't seem like an easy decision that they've made here. I'm sure some senior college golfers will be delighted, but just describe to us some of the challenges that may be faced.
It's a complex issue, Anna, and I think the biggest challenge that stands out to me is who's going to pay for this all? Obviously, the burden falls back on the schools, but when you talk about extending financial aid options, that means that you're going to be having a team with additional scholarships that you have to fund, that these schools have to fund. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge moving forward to all of these schools and all of these sports is how are they going to pay for this? And I think it's great that the NCAA is thinking about the athlete first, but ultimately the school is going to be the one that's going to have to execute this plan now.
You're right, Paige, and some schools simply have deeper pockets than others. And I think about college sports in much the way I think about Major League Baseball. Who do we always see in the playoffs? It's the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the teams with the deepest payrolls. And you look at college athletics, for example, LSU, which won a national championship in football as an athletic department last year. They made $157.8 million. The only three profitable sports were men's football, men's basketball, and baseball. So that's a big-time powerhouse school that can withstand having to pay another scholarship or two. Alabama, the same. Ohio State, the usual suspects, but it's the smaller Division I schools, I'm afraid, that may struggle in this new world.
Damon, the national championships is the pinnacle of college golf. It's what these athletes pour their heart and their souls in, and it's devastating to have taken that opportunity away from them. But with all of the financial costing and all the complications that come with it, do you think the NCAA have made the right decision here?
I do. I think it's a difficult decision, but I think that these student athletes who have sacrificed and they want to be able to finish their careers as student athletes in the right way, chasing whether it's a national championship or a personal record or whatever it may be, ashamed to think that it would be lost. I think it's a complex issue, as Paige said, but I think ultimately the NCAA came down on the right side.
I think there's hard decisions being made everywhere right now, and I'm not sure this early on that they've made the right one. I think, life's tough right now, and it's different. And why kind of muddle the future of these college athletes in all sports? There were some, I know I talked to a friend of mine that's a coach. They only had 3 events left on their season, and that's if they got into the NCAA. So, we're going to really change everything in the way everybody on the team does everything, really, especially scholarship-wise. It's difficult on the coach. For those 3 events, again, it's just a hard time. And I'm with Damon, whereas I feel bad for these kids that want to go out and play, and their dream as a senior was to play the NCAAs or their sectionals and in the finals. But, man, it's just a tough time, and we've got to kind of look ahead to the future and how it's going to affect them as well.
I agree with you, Robert. I think this has created more problems than solutions for the teams and the athletes. To your point, there wasn't much left of the season, and it is a shame. And I feel awful for these seniors that didn't get to finish their career. But at the same time, you're talking an additional year's expense on all of these schools for a missing couple of months. In golf, we call it rub of the green. And in this case, this is one of the most tragic rub of the greens there could have been if they were not able to come back. But at the same time, not only are you looking at a financial burden, you're looking at a competitive disadvantage or advantage, depending on which side of the coin that you fall on. These teams are now able to extend the number of scholarships per team. That means that certain teams that didn't have a graduating senior are going to be competing with 6 scholarships on the women's side, 4.5 on the men's side, and they're going to be competing against teams that potentially have 8 or 7 scholarships. I don't think that that's competitively consistent. So I think in a lot of ways, like I said, there's creating more problems than solutions with this answer.
And Robert, just looking from the player's perspective, it seems obvious that any senior college golfer would want to go back and have the opportunity to compete in the national championships, but it may not be that obvious. Describe the complexity of the decision of whether to turn pro or to go back to college for another year.
If your ultimate dream is to turn pro, I would say you're doing yourself and your team a disservice by staying on and taking that scholarship one more year. One, if you're going to be pro, you want to play as much tournament golf as you can. Back in college, you're going to play a handful of times each season. It's not going to be like tournaments every week the way it is when you turn pro and you go out and you grind on mini tours or smaller tours or even at home. It's a lot more intense, a lot more competition when you turn pro. Plus, if you care about your team, like I said, I think stepping aside, freeing that scholarship money, letting the younger players come up that were primed to take your place anyway, that's just probably the best thing to do. The problem is their college degree. How bad do they want it? That's just another thing in this decision that these players have to make. Did they already get their degree? Step aside. If you want to stay in for it, man, I don't know. I think it's tough. If you really cared about the team, maybe you keep playing and practicing with them, but take some of your scholarship aside. Maybe it's just a tough decision to make for these guys. But if you're going to turn pro and you know that's what you want, step out.
I also think we're going to continue to find out more and more details as this continues to unfold. The coaches that I talked to have meetings with their athletic department and NCAA today and moving forward to figure out how this is exactly going to unroll. It's going to affect obviously all of the sports, not just golf. And it's going to become a very, very complex issue. So I'm sure there's going to be more and more details we'll find out as we move forward.
Well, it is unprecedented times, and that is a historic decision by the NCAA. So we will keep you up to date as the whole thing unfolds. So thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Drive today. That is it from us, but you can catch more from us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube Golf channel page. Plus, don't miss anything later coming up this evening from Golf Central.